For this one, Dan and Steve, what I'm going to say is we're often so focused on what it is that we don't like and what we don't want. So this is for fashion, this is for career, this is for almost every area of life. We're trained to look at the negative. So I would say start to focus on things that you do want. What is it that you admire in other people about their fashion choices or their leadership? And think, okay, because I'm able to notice this in someone else, that actually means that deep down in me, I have it in me as well. Like the universe is showing you these things to give you that step to be like, yeah, like, hey, you can do this too. So start to take stock of people who are inspiring you, people who light you up. Day to day, it doesn't have to be a big celebrity or something. Like, who is it in your atmosphere that you're inspired by? And what is it about them that aligns so much with you that you can start to implement and start focusing on who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? What do I like?
Welcome to the Sales Problem Podcast. Here is the problem we are trying to solve. Every year you hit the reset button and you have to beat your numbers and grow your business. You have to get quicker, faster, and better. We are two guys trying to solve that sales problem, trying to help you grow by enhancing what you know about the art and science of selling and personal development. Along the way, we're going to interview some interesting characters and debate some different angles about this common business problem. So thanks for joining us. Let's get growing. Welcome back to the Sales Problem Podcast, and welcome to Season 2, Episode number 5. And this is the Style episode. And we know when you look good, you're going to feel good. So stay tuned for some lessons on how to create powerful first impressions. I'm your host, Daniel Burns, and joining me is my co-host, who is chocked full of style and swagger. He's none other than Mr. Style himself. A legend on the mic, Mr. Steve Comerford.
Well, thank you, Daniel. Swagger? I don't know. I learn all the swagger from you, my friend. Style? I have a little bit of style. I have my tragically
looking good
hip
today.
Have my tragically hip T-shirt on, very fashionable. Have my tuxedo jacket on, just because it's style. And I'm feeling good, looking good, Dan. At least I feel I'm looking good. And
what's in the mug today, Steve?
My coffee today is the damn good coffee, and just because it says that's the logo, but it's Beaver Rock. It is roasted up in Barrie, Ontario. So I'd love to promote those Canadian coffees. And it's a European espresso. So it's a good shot of espresso in the morning. And it's smooth, just like you. And it's European, not like me. So that is my coffee pick today. I still don't understand this rating system, but I'll give it a 4.5 beans out of 5. So that's me, Dan. What about you? What's going on in your cup of coffee today?
Big day today, Steve. Got the new Sales Problem Podcast mug, hot off the press.
That's pretty
landed today. So yeah, I'm excited about the mug. It's going to be up on the website, but what's in the mug is my favorite coffee of the entire season. And let me tell you, I stumbled upon this. I was in the grocery store. There were no brands that weren't major brands. It was all the Folgers and Nabob, and I'm not looking for those. But this one is the only one on the shelf that I didn't recognize, so I picked it up. It's Marley Coffee. And the title is Buffalo Soldier, obviously a Bob Marley theme.
Bob Marley, yeah.
I'm not even a Bob Marley fan, but I am now a fan of this coffee because you pour it into the filter, Steve. It's dark, it's rich, it looks luxurious. It is big, it is bold, and it is delicious. So this is my favorite new coffee. I'm giving it, listen to this, a whopping rating, 4.75 out of 5 beans.
Wow, that's your
I
biggest
don't know what
rating
the
ever.
rating. I don't know how the rating system works either, Steve, but I do know that that one is high. It deserves it. So I'm going to link both those coffees into the show notes. Let's dive straight in, Steve.
Let's go.
Oh, so now the focus for our podcast. Listeners, let's go. I'm excited for today because when you look at our demographics for this podcast, 50% of the listeners are men, 50% of the listeners are women. And we now have listeners in, get this, 14 different countries. I can't believe it. People are listening all over the world. It's been exciting news this year for us. But this episode is for everybody. It doesn't matter, male, female, human, black, white, red, whatever. This is for all of our listeners who want to look their best and perform their best. But today I do want to call out this demographic because this episode is specifically for men, because I know that so many men have come up to me over the years. They want to look better. They want to be more stylish, but it is so intimidating. It is the thing they say, I don't even know where to start. I've even taken people on shopping trips, so I know that this is an issue and we want to get to the bottom of it. So we brought on for you, our listeners, image consultant, coach, and style guru, Anthony Tomizza. He's on the show today, and he's going to set the record straight so we can all look and feel our best. Anthony Tomizza is an icon visibility activator. I'm going to say that again. Icon visibility activator. I can't wait to understand exactly what he does in that realm. But he elevates creatives to own their inner icon by stepping into their most authentic expression by deconditioning identity to unveil their true style. First impressions, they get formed within 7 seconds. So it's time to reclaim yours by using fashion as your communicator. Anthony, welcome to season 2. Welcome to the Sales Problem Podcast. We're super pumped to have you here. Give our listeners a little overview of who you are, what you do, and all the fabulous things about you.
Oh, Dan, thank you for the beautiful welcome. And Steve, thanks for having me. I mean, all I can really think about is that merch you got going on there. I need to get my hands on one of those thermoses. Like, give it up for that. I'm going to be heading to your website to grab one of those.
Anthony, I matched it to the watch, too, just because I knew you'd see details like that. So,
I appreciate that kind of stuff. Well, Dan, thanks so much again for that lovely introduction. And, I'm so excited to be here to talk about a topic that is so innate to my being. So, I'm an icon visibility activator. And what does that mean is that we all have this inner icon. Like, I use that title because it sounds, people are like, wait, what? They pause. But we all have this inner icon within us. You don't have to be in Hollywood. You don't have to be on massive screens or have this big following to be an icon. And so I have to help people realize that, because most of the time we just think we're just an average consumer, an average, employee, but there's so much more to you than that. And so what I do is I help people decondition their identity to reveal their true authentic style, because once you are really able to understand who it is that you are, what you like, how you want to be perceived, then you're going to start to own those first impressions that are made. And we know now, I think I did some research, it was about 5 seconds or something, but now that we're just even more fast as humans in making our judgment, it's like 3 seconds. So how do we win that over? And that's what I love to do. That's what I'm excited to be here to chat with you both a little bit more today on the podcast.
Wow. I mean, the first thing that I thought of was that kind of alter ego. I identify with that. I think I've got that inside, and sometimes it wants to come out, and then sometimes it's a little shy because there's lots of people around and you don't know whether to completely let it out and, feel safe around a group, but it's in there wanting to express itself. So I can identify with what you're saying.
Yeah, it's that alter ego is such an important thing. Even if you have and this is a tip that I love to get into, even if you have a little accessory, a watch, a bracelet, a pair of glasses. Steve's got these iconic glasses on right now. You put them on and you're in performance mode. You take them off, you can relax. I love that. Yeah, that's one of my favorite tips to throw around to people.
Well, I'm glad I'm in performer mode. I'm trying to, bring out my inner Dan just to show up for this interview. But Anthony, really nice to meet you. And we like to jump right into the good stuff for people that are listening. And if there's one thing that you can get across to listeners today, and that, feeling good, looking good mentality, like, is there one thing that you would suggest for men and one for women, or is it a combination of both? Like, what's one good thing that you could get across to them?
Okay, I'm going to go one for both, but they can totally be interchanged no matter how this resonates for you. But for men, what I like to say to men, just try to care like a little bit more than you might on the day-to-day. What I mean by that, for men, and this is more of a generalization, but for men, the standard of how they're supposed to show up in their look is far less generally scrutinized than women. What I mean by that is a man can show up wearing just like a suit, kind of roll out of bed and like look really well put together. Whereas a woman is always kind of, unfortunately, in the society we live in, and we need to do work to deconstruct this, but is often compared more, contrasted more. So for men, how to get a little bit of a win, all you have to do is just put a little bit more effort. Spend maybe 2 extra minutes in the washroom styling your hair, or maybe 1 minute in the mirror being like, does this match my shoes? Does this match my coat? Because the thing with style is that like one little thing you can do, it's like exponentially impactful. If you just show up a little bit more set to go, then you're going to show up in your presentations and your sales meetings, and people are going to notice this change in you, okay? So that's my tip for men. Simple. Just try a little bit harder. Just spend a little bit more time. For women, I like to say, to feel good sometimes, just buy the thing. And, this can sound counterintuitive, maybe your bank accounts are going to get mad at me or your partners. Buy the shoes, buy the bag, feel good. Get something once in a while, like maybe twice a year. Buy something that makes you feel good, like that handbag or whatever it is for whoever's listening to this. Just buy it. We know that material things don't like over the long haul really add up to like really high levels of happiness. But when you're out day to day, especially salespeople, like get something that's going to make you have that pep in your step, like treat yourself well. So I want my women to really just treat themselves really well. Get yourself that little something. So that would be my 2 tips, and it's super interchangeable, but that's how I'd like to attack that one.
No, I really like that. So is it a matter of, that 1 time a year, 2 times a year that you buy something, you invest in something that is really going to up your game, like just step out of that comfort zone and invest, and then that really ties together a lot of what you bring every day?
Yeah, Steve, I think it's really just that proving to yourself, like I'm making the decision to invest X amount of money in myself to make me feel good. And then that mental repercussion is going to be there day to day. Like, yeah, I'm worth it. Like, yeah, I do deserve that handbag. I do deserve those sunglasses that make me feel good. Totally. Psychology of excellence is how I see it.
So to flip that over, what's, and I have my own idea on this one in terms of men making mistakes on what they wear every day. And I learned early from my wife that, shoes really make a difference. And you could look at somebody and then you look down, you go look at their shoes and go, whoa, that's too bad. But is there a common mistake that you see in a lot of people and heading out to work and they just didn't do it right?
You know what, Steve? It's exactly that. It's that. If you don't give yourself that once over in the mirror before you leave, you're missing, like, especially for people who this doesn't come as innately. Some people, and it's understandable, it's hard to put pieces together. The biggest mistake I see is I look at people and I'm like, oh, if only you just looked in the mirror for like 2 more minutes and thought, maybe exactly, Steve, these shoes weren't right with this outfit. Maybe I needed to step it up. Maybe I needed to dress it down. So it's not only that, like, let me fix my hair a bit or let me get the right coat on. So there's that benefit. The other thing that I notice with people and the way they carry themselves, if they did this little bit of an extra pause before they left the house to put themselves together, not only are they catching little things that they can fix that are like simple wins, if you give yourself that same opportunity then to hype yourself up in the mirror, like if you're not starting your day by being your own biggest cheerleader, like give yourself a high five, say, damn, I look good. Like it sounds vain, but I love the mirror. And it took a long time to actually look and love what I see. But if you don't like hype yourself up, then you can't expect other people will. So the biggest mistake is fix those little things. Like look at yourself and be like, wait, if I was outwardly looking at me, what would I think about this outfit? And B, give yourself some love in the mirror every morning, and that will carry you through at least for your first few meetings or something, let alone your whole day. You'll have a better mindset. People are just too fast to leave the house, I think. And these quick things can be really, really small, important wins.
I like that part about it's easy to be a critic, right? And your biggest critic, your own biggest critic. And I love your point around like give yourself a pat on the back and say, yes, I look fantastic. I like that. Over to my fantastic co-host.
Goes a long way.
Yes.
So I want to jump in on a point you made earlier, Anthony, because I loved it. Buy the thing. Just go get the thing. It reminds me of, there's two things, right? Because this is a sales podcast. One is debt motivation. That can be a good thing. You know, you spend a bunch of money, you got to make some money now because you've put yourself out there. Now you got to make some. But the other one is that I had a client that wasn't sure whether she should go get something expensive for herself to celebrate, had the best year that she's had. And I said, you know what? That's going to be a symbol of this amazing year. Every time you carry it from the car to the next office you're in, you've got a little reminder of the fact that you crushed a sales year and that you are fabulous, you are fantastic. And so it's not just an item. It's a reminder of your success sometimes. It's a reminder of, you know, you can do amazing things.
That gives me the chills, Dan. Yep. I'm thinking of all those purchases for me too, that I can look at them and be so proud of that very moment. You know, that's important.
So I'm super curious about the type of clients that come to you. What are some of the issues that people show up and present? And then what's the process you take them through, Anthony, from, you know, they come in, they want to do some type of, you know, small adjustment or transformation so they can look better, they can feel better. How do you guide them through that process as a coach?
Yeah, so the people that I mostly see coming to me and that I love to serve are, I want to say, people who are on the rise. And I use that term in the sense maybe they're doing more PR, maybe they're doing more interviews, maybe their business has begun to take off and they recognize the need to be on a stage or they're hosting events. Their visibility has been on the rise in the past little bit, and they're starting to hit some resistance because as we continue to grow, we go through those transformative moments where we realize how we operated in the past, we kind of have to adjust. And so a lot of the times it's those types of people who just need that extra little bit of coaching of how can I show up in a way that has a signature style or builds upon my personal brand or allows me to convey openness, accountability, success, and really think about tactfully how we're going to structure your outfits to be able to head into the boardroom, head onto a stage, head onto a TV appearance. And so the process that I like to take those people through is there's a few different ways. So for those people who it becomes a little bit more of like the mindset and the fashion, we're pairing them together. I love working with them for at least 3 months because what we're able to do, understand your goals, where you're trying to go, and how we can match your image every step along the way to get there. But the thing is that's so beautiful about working with people in this space is that clothes and image is a very vulnerable thing to share with someone. So I always want to make sure that people are okay opening up and all of those things. But when I'm shopping with a client, they're looking right in the mirror. Remember, I just said earlier, like it's hard. It was even hard for me to look in the mirror until a few years ago of doing all this work. You start to hear the negative beliefs, the limiting decisions that they're showing up as. And for me to be there to help them to say, hey, we're going to work on that in a coaching session. That's what I love about this work I'm able to do is it's not just being a stylist and it's not just being a coach. It's bringing those together so when they hit that stage, they're wearing something that they're confident in and we've blown out all of that stuff that's been bogging them down. And it can look like that, or it can look like, hey, Anthony, I have this event coming up in a few weeks, or hey, I'm going through a big life change. I'm interviewing for some new jobs. I just need you for about a few weeks. So we'll talk with them, talk about their goals, look at their closet with them, virtually or in person, and give them a little lookbook that they can use to reference later on so that they can go out and do it on their own. So there's a lot of different ways, but it's always the people I seem to attract the most and love working with is people who are on the verge of growth or a big life change. They just need that extra little help.
This podcast is all about growth. So there's a lot of growth people listening here. And one thing that just popped into my head, do most people have a role model when you say, we want to kind of change your look? Is there somebody that they're wanting to somewhat emulate with their look? Or
a lot of the time people don't think that way, and you have that stylish, very iconic kind of brand, Dan, and I can see why you would think that way. Most people kind of get lost in that, and so part of the process is really figuring out who are your iconic figures. So whether it be celebrities or successful business people, it could be their looks. Do you want to just kind of have that vibe, be the James Bond or something when you show up, or is it qualities that are less tangible through clothes, but through your being? So I really want to command the stage like Tony Robbins or something. So we can look at it from both angles. But long story short, I really do think we all need to be having style icons to look up to so that we can kind of embody that, and people that we align with so that we can think I love Nicki Minaj, but I'm not going to dress like her. That's not my personal brand. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to embody that attitude when I show up. Maybe one day I'll rock a pink wig, but I don't think so. I'm going to take on that attitude, that persona. So it works in both ways.
I'm so interested in this, and I'm loving everything that you're saying, and that you're looking at different qualities within people, not just their style necessarily, but how they show up, what their presence is like. Let me dive into some of the tough questions here. And I want to touch on a bunch of different topics. We haven't done a question, Steve, I don't think, like this before, but I want to go kind of two different directions. One, how important are these things to somebody's image? And then what would you say they should consider when it comes to first impressions? I'm going to go through a little list. We'll do a little bit of rapid fire, but when it comes to somebody's image and first impressions, how important is their haircut or their hairstyle?
Okay, huge. I have to say, hair can be really, really a really good tool to be able to express what you want out of that look, because that's something that people are going to see right away. So I think a tip here is, like I referenced earlier, please, please, please try not to just get up and out of bed and just run to the office. Do something. It doesn't have to be a lot. Run your fingers through it, just structure it a little bit. I think for men, having a standing barber appointment is important. Don't let it be so overgrown unless that's part of your style. You can have different styles, but make sure you upkeep it. And for women, I think it's different. You can have the same signature hairstyle that really suits you, but also don't be afraid to play around with color, play around with different styles. And so I think, yes, super important. People perceive it quickly when you meet them. So I think the best tip I could give is finding that trusted barber or hairstylist that you can kind of give some creative freedom, but also be hey, look, this is my haircut that I want, and I'm going to come see you every 3 weeks, and we're going to do the same thing until I decide to change. It's very important.
I think a lot of people get lost in that hairstyle. They find the one and they lock onto it, and it doesn't change. And, styles change, but they don't change. And then, okay. How about smile and teeth?
Ooh, okay. Your smile says a lot. And here's the thing. I think in the generation that I grew up in, I'm lucky my parents paid for my orthodontics, thank gosh, because I would have had a funky smile right now had I not done that when I was a kid. And so I would never tell anyone go out and get braces, or there's a lot of faster ways to correct a smile these days. The thing I would just say is, Crest white strips are pretty affordable. You could get an at-home whitening kit. I think just you don't have to have bleached white teeth, but I think teeth and caring for your teeth, at least floss, go to the dentist, don't let people see plaque on your teeth. Those are just general self-care tips that are good for your health. But teeth are really important if we're talking especially about salespeople. You're talking a lot and you're in intimate settings. So, I'm not going to tell you go get reconstructive dental surgery, but I'm going to say maybe just pick up some Crest white strips to see if they do the job, and just try to be happy about your smile is my best advice there. It's important.
Love it. Okay, here's one that I think some people can get lost in, and it's scent. You walk in and there's walls full of scent, and where do you start with that? So
Okay, scent you're exactly right. It can be a difficult one to navigate. So let's start simple. Number one, no matter what scent you're wearing, whether it matches you or not or whatever, it doesn't matter. But whatever you're wearing, don't ever be the person that sprays too much. We all have been around that person that comes in and, it just is too much. It's pungent and, it's just not a good vibe. So I would say, do your little sprays like on your wrists, on a part of your neck, whatever. A little bit goes a long way. I think this is a confusing one, Dan. See, if I was in Italy in September and I went into a few stores that were selling a lot of different scents, and I'm trying to wrap my mind around it too. I was like, can you just point me to something fresh, something light? And there's just a lot of combinations of smells and they react differently based off your skin type and stuff. So I would say if you find something that you like and you get a good reaction from, stick with it. But if you're overwhelmed by it, just get a few samples, start slow, try something out for a week, see how it goes. But the biggest thing and the only thing I want anyone to remember out of this answer, just a little bit goes a long way.
All right. Well, I put on a nice cologne. Nobody's going to appreciate it on a podcast, but I will share with listeners. I have two choices. I have the staple cologne it's my day-to-day stuff. And then I have one that is a little wild, a little spicy, something that if I go into an environment where I just want to change it up completely, I've got a secondary spray that makes me feel just a little bit exotic, I guess you'd say.
I love that.
Let's go to shoe choice. Steve.
Sorry, Dan. You have a cologne named Staples? Is that from Business Depot? Is that your Business Depot cologne? I
get it
confused.
With my it's a toner and perfume combo, Steve. So
okay, got it.
You save money that way, yeah.
All right. Good.
So let's go to shoe choice. Steve touched on it a little bit, but what's important when it comes to shoe choices?
I think it's important to have a shoe that complements the outfit. What I like to tell people, especially when they're kind of figuring this stuff out in the beginning and they're not quite confident in their style choices, base an outfit based off one thing. So, doesn't mean you have to be muted and then only have one potent, pungent thing. But if you have a kind of more loud suit or something, calm down on the shoes, just be really elegant. Vice versa. If you're more muted up top and bottom, then pack a punch, wear a fun sneaker or something. What I don't really love to see people do, again, unless it's really innately a part of their personal brand, is to just be loud everywhere. So I think just let the pieces speak for themselves. And what I mean by that is just, if you're wearing a more muted suit or more muted outfit, give us a show on the feet. But otherwise, just let it all kind of blend in. And Steve, you nailed it exactly at the beginning of the episode. Sometimes you just look and you're like, oh, if it wasn't for those shoes, you would have just nailed it. So just give yourself a second look in the mirror.
Okay. Now here's an interesting one. Tailoring the fit of clothes. Some people say I get some stuff tailored. Some people buy everything off the rack. And then does it matter your fashion brand? Some people like to go, very high-end luxury brands. They think that's going to make them fashionable. Other people try to kind of do it on a budget or mix a little bit in there. But how important are those to your image?
So I would say, barring anything you just mentioned, Dan, I'd say the most important thing is fit. And so we could be talking about a suit from H&M or a really, really pricey designer suit. If it doesn't fit you, and this isn't just for suits, this is anything, jackets, coats, whatever, pants. If it doesn't fit you properly, it's just not going to land the same way. So, you could have spent $1,000 on this Louis Vuitton jacket or something, and it just doesn't look like it fits right. You're kind of losing us. So the biggest thing in my personal style journey is just recently I've been going into Harry Rosen here in Toronto, and I've just been getting some really nice tailored pieces, made to measure pieces. And I've got to tell you, talk about fashion and mindset. When I hit a stage or I hit a networking event or whatever, or I'm with clients, and I'm in one of those things that fits just perfectly, I'm winning no matter what. I don't care. I'm having my moment. And so you can go there and spend so much money, or you can buy a more budget appropriate one. This one is from their Herald line, which is Harry Rosen's actual brand itself. Fairly affordable for made to measure. So I would say fit is the most important thing, regardless of brands. I think be careful with monograms and stuff that are really loud. I think especially in the sales world, you don't really want to come in being so loud. But if that's who you are, enjoy it. But I think the most important thing is like fit just trumps everything. What doesn't matter what the brand is, as long as it fits nicely.
I'm loving it. Okay, last one. So somebody shows up, they look amazing. You know, you look at them and you go, wow, that person's really got it together. But then they open up their mouth and the wrong stuff comes out, or you see them kind of acting in a way that is not really great. Tell us a little bit about that, how you speak and how you act, especially at a networking event or something. How does that affect how people perceive you, your image, your first impression?
Whew. I'm so glad you touched on that one, because as the quote goes, and everyone knows that people will always remember how you make them feel. And a week from now, no one's going to remember particularly what you wore. They might know, oh, this is a stylish person. They're not going to remember the exact outfit. But when you're talking to them, and if you're talking really arrogantly or speaking in a really awful way, they're going to remember that. So that's where the mindset work comes in. Like, who are you? What are your values? What are you trying to portray? And how can you do that with grace and openness and acceptance? And then maybe use your fashion as your communicator from there. But like, you could be the worst dressed person and still get the best reception if you're just the nicest in the room. So I think this is where clothes and everything, like, ditch everything we just said. As long as you're a good person, that's step one.
Well, I like it. You brought up the jacket. I was out, bought a jacket a couple of weeks ago and brought it back home. And it was just, I love the style. It had a bit of zip to it, but it just didn't fit properly. So I had to bring it back. It was a sad day bringing it back, but I know, to your point, right? If it doesn't fit properly, it's just like, you're just not going to be comfortable. So I appreciate that point.
Totally.
But here's my question for you, Anthony. So, hey, Dan, I love all the questions. This was good. We should have a rapid fire more often. But the question is, like, over the last 10 years, especially over the last 3-4 years, right? Style in the boardroom has changed, it seems, quite dramatically. What are people missing out on? Are we getting a little bit too comfortable? Like people showing up just a bit too cozy? And are we, like, what can you recommend or say about that topic?
Interesting question, Steve. And I've done some corporate workshops around the topic of matching your fashion and your mindset together. And a lot of the times, especially if it's a remote workshop I do and the company works remote, I ask them, like, how do you feel about the way you dress day to day? And 99% of them, of course, since the pandemic, have said, like, oh, yeah, like, I know I wear sweats too much. Like, I know when I show up to a call and I don't have to put my video on or whatever, like, I know that I'm not at my best performance. Yeah, I'm comfortable, but like, I know I'm missing out on something. So I'm kind of old school. Like, I really do think that what you wear is going to dictate how you move. So even by me putting this blazer on, like, I didn't have to put it on. We all didn't have to put on our blazers for this podcast, but we did. And we kind of just feel this extra sense of, like, I'm here, like, I'm performing, like I said. So I think it's really important, especially in sales, like, show up in a way that you're still going to be relatable to perhaps whoever you might be selling to, but maybe just be like a step or two ahead of their dress code. So if it's a place that you have known and you've been there before, like, try to maybe step it up a bit, but not to the point where, like, you're totally outdressing them. I still think there's room for being formal. There's room for ties and all of those formal bits. But I think at the end of the day, you still want to feel comfortable, but I don't really exactly love how far we've moved one way since the pandemic. I think it really does affect people's mindset and performance is how I view it.
Yeah, and I think if you get back to the topic around growth, right, and you're trying to promote yourself and trying to, move up the ladder or look for that promotion, you do have to show up. Maybe the tie is gone, but clean, crisp shirt, a nice suit jacket, and back to the shoes, a nice pair of shoes. I think that goes a long way. No matter if you're in person or on a web call. There's a few people missing that one. But so here's my next question. I'm a new sales rep, right? I have no money. I'm like scrambling together. I've got duct tape on my front fender. Dan knows that guy. And how do you piece that together? Trying to put the right image out to your clients, your new clients, but you're still trying to earn a buck. How do you square that one?
So I think there's a few things we can look at here. I think generally when people are young and starting out, there's like a general acceptance, like, okay, this like 23-year-old sales rep, like, they're just starting out. We have to give them some grace. I think people are fairly good about that. What I would say, and you actually just mentioned it, Steve, is like just a crisp, like white shirt, like simpler the better. And you can find really good pieces. Actually, some of my favorite suits are Zara suits. They just happen to fit me perfect, and I just love wearing those suits. You can find more budget-appropriate items that are just simple. So what I would say, if you're looking to get something a bit more budget-friendly, don't do anything that's loud or with a print, because then that's when you're going to start to notice. If people have an eye, they're going to start to notice maybe that wasn't the most like high-quality crafted suit. But if you go for the simple, the navies, the grays, the charcoals, and you just match it with a white shirt, and maybe you're able to splurge once you get a few paychecks rolling in on like some good shoes, people are going to really respect you. And I think if you're really focused on the mindset work and the growth, like you both focus on this podcast, that will speak for itself. Then once you start making in some more money, and then sure, start to get a made to measure piece or whatever. But I'll never shame like a Zara or like a fast fashion brand, especially for people at that time. We put too much expectation on young people who are just starting out. Like, the world's expensive. You just got to do what you got to do. But keep it simple would be my advice to them.
Like it. Thank you.
That takes me back to my university days where I had to get a suit. I had zero money at all. I think I got 3 suits for $199, and like I thought,
what a dream.
Hey, it was a suit. Everybody else was showing up in jeans, but I felt like it wasn't an expensive suit at all. But the way I came into that class, that presentation I had to do because I was wearing a suit, I still felt great. Let's transition for a second from the look good and focus more on the feel good. So you're an NLP coach. Talk to me a little bit about how you help your clients really feel good. What's the mental side of things, and how do you work with them so that it's not just the outside that's really shining? It really emulates from the inside, and people can see it coming through to the outside, regardless of how they're dressed.
Well, thanks for touching on that, Dan. This is a topic I love so much. So in my intro, when I said I'm an iconic visibility activator and I help people decondition their identity to unveil their authentic expression, what that really means, your authentic expression and visibility and deconditioning that identity. I know when we get into the coaching world, we often tend to use these fluffy words, so I like to really break it down. So ditching the people pleasing. So that's both internal and external. I help people ditch the people pleasing. So the way that they're showing up and expressing their inside out, their values and stuff, it's a priority to theirs. No longer feeling the need to hide. So really helping people get that psychology of like, I can go be that awesome sales leader, even though I feel like everything's working against me, for example, especially in this realm that you're in. And then owning who you are. Like, actually, if you are that type of person who wants to be seen and who wants to wear loud things because you have this big boisterous personality, like, how can we get you feeling more comfortable doing that? And so the work that I do is I really help people unravel the things that we've learned from a young age. And between 0 and 7 are considered the imprint period, where we're really just soaking in everything as a sponge from the environment that we're surrounding us. And so those are things we can't control, but little do many people know is that however we were taught to act, behave, or believe at that young age sticks with us, and we can see that through cycles in people's lives on how they're continuing to show up. So I work with people using different methodologies in NLP to help them access their unconscious mind and really speak to it in a literal sense to really get that 90% of the unconscious brain to be on board with your 10% of that's conscious and align who you are internally with your goals. And so it really helps people get out of self-sabotage, get out of hiding, and really get it down to a deep level, because often I notice that, and even myself, I've done some work where it's a little more topical, rather once I've done some more internal work and let go of these things that I've learned so long ago, like now I'm just me and I'm who I am and I show up who I want to be. So that's where the NLP comes in. It's really speaking to that unconscious mind, blowing out those negative emotions, limiting decisions, and just speaking to it in a really warm, welcoming, way, but also tells it like, this is who we are, this is where we want to go, so let's realign ourselves.
Okay, so I just want to pause for our listeners to make sure that you go back and just listen to that again, because there was so much packed into there that I think is awesome. And it starts with owning who you are. To me, that's brilliant. I mean, you really do. And when I think of some of the people that I might kind of come into contact with, thinking of somebody who's more stoic, more old-fashioned or classic type, you're not going to see them dressed like Kanye. Like, it's not authentic. It's not who they are. So when I think about style, I think about stylish people, but that person being authentic to themselves may have more of a classic, more older fashioned type of look, but it's still going to represent who they are kind of inside to out, right?
You nailed it. And that's the important part. Be true to your authentic style. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. If it feels good to you, then it's right. You nailed it.
So I want to touch on another one, because you talked it kind of about limiting beliefs. And so for the person that goes, you know what, I really admire people who are bold with their fashion. And I like that look, but me, I don't know if I could pull that off, like I just don't have the confidence that they do. So I'm just going to, I won't do that kind of thing. How do you help them kind of get into that alter ego or take that step beyond what they think they're capable of with their image?
Great question. And here's what I would say to that. What I love to tell people, and even what I've done with myself over the years, what are spaces and places or events where you can go and the stakes are a little bit lower? Meaning you're not running the event, you're not leading the meeting. Maybe it's just a new networking event and you're trying to, enter a new audience, or you're just going out with friends. Like, let's just keep it simple. How can you maybe try on a fun thing that you're a little nervous to wear, and then just start to garner the reaction of how people are receiving you, but more so, how do you feel? Maybe you went into that networking event and you're like, wow, everyone came up to me because I had this really cool new blazer on and it was awesome. Or maybe you're like, I went to this networking lunch and it made me feel awful. And so now I'm going to return it or whatever, never do that again because I know who I am. I actually don't need that. But go in low stakes environments where you're not going to have that extra external pressure of, well, my boss sees me and they're going to be like, why are you wearing this thing? You never wear that. Who are you? Like, go places where people just don't know you as much. You can have fun with this. Put on that alter ego outfit and just I don't know, go to bars, do whatever you want. Do anything that makes you feel comfortable trying it.
Oh, that is brilliant. The thing that popped into my head was you're on vacation. I mean, you don't know anybody there, right? That's the time to kind of unload the item in the suitcase where you're like, I've never worn this, but you know what? I'm going to go rock this by the pool.
Totally. Have fun with it. No one knows who you are.
Right on. So there's probably listeners here that feel like they want to make a change. They're not entirely happy with their image. They're listening going, this makes so much sense, but they don't know where to start that transformation. What's one thing that you'd say, if you need to start somewhere, start here. This is step one to begin the process of creating more of an image transformation for yourself?
Okay. For this one, Dan and Steve, what I'm going to say is, we're often so focused on what it is that we don't like and what we don't want. So this is for fashion, this is for career, this is for almost every area of life. We're trained to look at the negative. So I would say, start to focus on things that you do want. What is it that you admire in other people about their fashion choices or their leadership? And think, okay, because I'm able to notice this in someone else, that actually means that deep down in me, I have it in me as well. Like, the universe is showing you these things to give you that step to be like, yeah, hey, you can do this too. So start to take stock of people who are inspiring you, people who light you up day to day. It doesn't have to be a big celebrity or something. Like, who is it in your atmosphere that you're inspired by? And what is it about them that aligns so much with you that you can start to implement and start focusing on, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? What do I like? If you're feeling stuck and you're like, I don't like my closet, I don't like my career, okay, I hear you, I see you. But what do you want? If you don't know what you want, you're not going to take any steps to get there. So get out of that negative mindset. Who's your style inspiration? Who's your leadership inspiration, your business inspiration? Take some steps to try to be a little bit more like them and see how it feels. And I promise it'll make a really significant mental change for you, is what I would say.
That is so good. And so what I'm hearing is that as a foundation, you pick somebody or something that you go, I like that to start with. Can you just add your own spin to something that you say, I like most of this, but I want it to be original, so I'm going to put my own little spin on that. And then you're not starting from scratch. You've got a foundation of something you like, but you're putting yourself, your own unique thing on top of that.
I love that. Totally. Like, look at someone like Kanye West at his height of when he had Yeezy and like the brand, like people were really trying to embody his style. And so even now to this day, like I still wear like some baggy hoodies to be like him, but like personally, I don't really align myself with many of his beliefs and what he stands for so much, especially anymore. But that doesn't mean I can't look at the guy and think, yeah, like in 2017, he was rocking those bombers and stuff. And like, so I'm going to put on my like Kanye persona, but my version of it. It doesn't mean I'm transforming to him and exactly who he is. You take that approach with anyone.
Well, I like that we stepped in and talked about mindset and the inner you. Great. We've a lot of the conversation is around, what jacket you wear, the shoes you wear, how you look. But I think a big part of how you feel is probably more important of how you carry yourself. So I'm really glad we touched on that part, because I think that's the starting point. Then the clothes can go on top of that, and you can go out and tackle the world. One quick question, and it's really more around introverts, right? You talk about a lot of bold stuff. I don't see a lot of introverts wearing a lot of bold things. Like, is there one recommendation for the quieter crowd that maybe that would be something more along their line?
Ooh, you know what? Totally. I think there's Sophia Ritchie Grange comes to mind right now. She just married a big music executive recently, and she has ushered in a new look for people that so many are identifying with, especially those who don't want those big, bold fashion choices, like being, more sophisticated, like clean, comfortable. And so I think what's really important for that, and I think they call it like quiet luxury, like you can still be really put together, like you can be the most stylish person in the room and you're wearing something super expensive and no one has any idea. And that like mindset piece could really work for people like that. So I think what I would recommend for anyone who feels like they don't always want to be in the spotlight, that's fine. That's great. Actually, we need more people like that. And I think that the way to elevate your mindset is just simple things. I would just say don't wear all black all the time. Like, don't psych yourself out every day to be like, I have to hide. But just wear things that are simple, that are elegant, and just like have that quiet slay. Like someone walks by and they're like, oh, wait, like you do a double take and you're like, that outfit was just like perfect, whether it was the tailoring or it was just really muted. There's still a way to like win the room without having to be that like loud, bold, stylish person. So yeah, I love working with people like that, because they're actually like the ones that I think are doing it best, truthfully.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad I asked that extra question. And Dan, this has been a blast. I love this piece, right? We always talk about sales process and objection handling and, winning the deal. But I think today was about winning the day and being your authentic self and having the mindset to go out and kind of tackle the world. So I thank you, Anthony. Really, really appreciate your time today. But is there a way that our guests can kind of find you, learn more about you and more about what you're doing?
Sure, yeah. So the best place to find out a little bit more about what I'm up to is my website. It's just anthonytomizza.com. But if you go to anthonytomizza.com/quiz, I have a 9-question fashion quiz that it's super fun. Honestly, quizzes I find are fun. It just basically tells you like, what is your style, your signature style? What is kind of the shadow self of that? And a few recommendations of maybe how you can kind of step into something that might be a little bit more you. So I love that. You can check that out on my website. I'm on socials, love interacting with people. But I just want to say and lead with such gratitude for Dan and Steve. Thank you both for having me. I think the work you do for the sales industry is so needed. And the fact that you even considered that there is, this connection between fashion and mindset is so awesome. Like, I love talking about this stuff, and you both are just embodying it. So thank you so much for giving yourselves and me this platform to be here today. And to the listeners, thanks for listening. Like, what an incredible podcast you have here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Well, you absolutely rocked it, Anthony. So listeners, here's my challenge to you. What are you going to change, or what are you at least going to try as a result of all the amazing information that Anthony shared with you today? If you want to look good and you want to feel good, it starts with you. It doesn't start with this podcast. It's the thing that you're going to take away from this podcast and put into your life. So Anthony, you have helped us solve the sales problem today because you gave our listeners some new knowledge that they needed to thrive and succeed. You've helped them grow by enhancing what they know. Listeners, we love you. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening to us. If you can share this podcast with somebody that needs it, go into 2024 with a new look, a new image. You're going to let that alter ego out a little bit. We're going to see you next episode. And until then, keep building the best version of you.